My daughter-in-law thought I hadn't noticed when she slipped something into my champagne at my 72nd birthday party. After I announced that I was donating 80% of my fortune to charity, Vanessa decided I had to die before I signed the papers. But she made a fatal mistake. I saw everything from my bedroom window. While she waited for the artificial flowers at the gate, I switched our drinks. When she raised her glass to toast to my generosity, she had no idea what she was about to drink. What happened in the next 60 seconds left 40 guests speechless. Drop a comment below telling us your location and whether you believe people can change, or if greed reveals who they really are inside. The tension at my 72nd birthday party wasn't visible to my guests, but I felt it like a weight in my chest. As laughter echoed through my Greenwich Mansion's elegant garden, my mind drifted to the conversation that had changed everything 1 week ago. I'd called Marcus and Vanessa into my study that Tuesday afternoon, the mahogany-paneled room where I'd built Thompson Pharmaceuticals over 4 decades. My son sat expectantly at 42, still living off the generous allowance I'd provided since college. Vanessa, 36 and calculating, had quit her pharmaceutical sales job the day she married into our wealth. "I'm selling the business," I announced calmly. "Thompson Pharmaceuticals will be sold within 6 months. Marcus's eyes lit up with dollar signs. "When do we start planning the investments?" The silence after my next words was deafening. 80% goes to the Children's Medical Research Foundation. 20% covers your mother's and my retirement, with modest inheritances for you both eventually. Vanessa's manicured fingers gripped her chair until her knuckles whitened. 80%? Brian, that's our family's money. That's Marcus's inheritance. We've been loyal for years, Marcus added, emboldened by his wife's fury. We've attended every company event, every charity dinner. We deserve better than scraps. The word deserve hung between us like a blade. Here were 2 healthy adults who'd chosen dependency over independence, entitlement over effort. They'd never asked about my 60-hour weeks building this empire, never inquired about the sacrifices. They saw only results, the mansion, the lifestyle, and assumed it would transfer like genetic inheritance. "I'm announcing this publicly at my birthday party," I continued, watching Vanessa's face flush crimson. "Our friends should know about the foundation's new funding. You're going to humiliate us," she hissed. "Everyone will know we're being cut out. You're being taught the difference between earning something and expecting it." They'd stormed out that day in a fury of slammed doors and screeching tires. No contact for a week, until this morning, when Vanessa called with honey in her voice, apologizing for their emotional reaction and asking to attend the party to support this generous decision. Her sudden transformation from rage to support felt as authentic as fool's gold. Now, watching her glide among my guests, with practiced charm, her smile bright and manner gracious, I wondered what had changed her mind. Vanessa had never accepted defeat gracefully. She was a woman who got what she wanted, one way or another. The pharmaceutical sales training had taught her to read people, to find their weaknesses, to close deals others couldn't. She understood chemistry, dosages, how medications affected the human body. Most importantly, she knew how to maintain perfect composure while pursuing her objectives. As she laughed at Dr. Mitchell's story near the champagne table, I noticed how her eyes kept tracking back to me, calculating and cold beneath the warm performance. The woman who'd screamed about family money 7 days ago was now playing the perfect daughter-in-law, and every instinct I'd developed in 40 years of business was screaming warnings. Marcus seemed genuinely contrite, staying close to my side, asking thoughtful questions about the Foundation's mission. But Vanessa, she was planning something. I could feel it in the way she positioned herself strategically around the party, the way she studied the layout, the timing, the guests. The evening was about to become far more dangerous than I'd anticipated. The party had reached that perfect rhythm where conversations flowed like wine and laughter punctuated the cool October evening. My Greenwich garden sparkled with string lights through oak trees, elegant tables adorned with autumn flowers, and soft jazz, creating the ideal celebration backdrop. Dr. James Mitchell, my business partner for 30 years, raised his champagne flute. To the most generous man in Connecticut, he called out. Over 40 guests. Thompson Pharmaceuticals built more than wealth, it built character. Warm applause filled the air as I smiled, surrounded by people who genuinely understood my values. These were real friends Sarah and David Patterson from next door, Rebecca Collins, my attorney, Father Michael O'Connor from Street Marys, relationships built on respect, not financial dependency. But my attention kept drifting to Vanessa. She moved through the crowd with seasoned hostess skill, complimenting Mrs. Patterson's dress, asking thoughtful questions about Dr. Mitchell's retirement, expressing interest in Father O'Connor's youth program. The performance was flawless. Too flawless. I'd watched her workrooms before charity galas, company parties where she needed to charm connections. Tonight felt different. There was intensity beneath her smile, calculation in how she positioned herself near the champagne table, studying the crystal flutes like a chess master, examining the board. My monogrammed glass, a director's gift years ago, sat prominently at center, easily distinguishable from others. Throughout the evening, she'd watched my drinking patterns, timing when I refreshed my champagne, noting which guests commanded my attention longest. "Brian, you've outdone yourself tonight," she said, appearing at my elbow with that radiant smile. "The garden looks magical, and the champagne selection exquisite taste as always." "Thank you, Vanessa. I'm glad you and Marcus came." Her laugh was like silver bells, perfectly calibrated. "Of course we came. This is such an important night for you, for the family. I want everyone to see how proud we are of your generosity." The word generosity carried the slightest edge, barely perceptible unless you were listening for it, which I was. Marcus approached with genuine warmth, wrapping his arm around his wife. "Dad, I've been thinking about what you said, about earning versus expecting. I want to start looking for real work. Maybe pharmaceutical field. Use knowledge I picked up growing up around the business." For a moment, I felt hope. Perhaps my harsh words had penetrated his comfortable complacency. Perhaps this crisis could catalyst his growth into the man I'd always hoped he'd become. "I'm proud to hear that, son. Several companies would value your background." Vanessa's smile never wavered, but I caught something cold flash in her eyes. She didn't want Marcus developing independence any more than she wanted me donating our fortune. A working husband might question their lavish lifestyle, develop opinions about money and responsibility. The jazz quartet finished their set, and in the brief lull, my phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Children's Medical Research Foundation Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the director I'd been working with on donation structure. "Excuse me," I said, stepping away. "Foundation business." As I moved toward the house, Vanessa's eyes tracked my movement, noting exactly where I was going. The calculation in her gaze was unmistakable now, like a predator watching prey move into perfect position. The call was about to create the opportunity she'd been waiting for all evening. I climbed to my master bedroom, seeking privacy for what I knew would be important foundation business. The bedroom balcony offered the perfect spot, quiet for conversation, yet with a clear view of the garden party below. "Dr. Warren," I answered, stepping onto the balcony. "I hope you're calling with good news." "Excellent news, Brian. The board unanimously approved the donation structure. We're prepared to receive the funds as soon as Thompson Pharmaceuticals closes." As she discussed logistics, I gazed down at the elegant scene below. String lights cast warm glows over animated conversations, creating exactly what I'd envisioned, sharing good fortune with people who'd supported me through the years. "The publicity will be handled delicately," Dr. Warren continued. "We understand your preference for quiet generosity. I appreciate that, though I am sharing the news tonight with close friends." Through the railing, I watched the party's natural rhythm. Dr. Mitchell conversed with Father O'Connor about community programs. The Pattersons admired my late wife's memorial rose garden. Marcus actually listened to the jazz quartet instead of checking his phone. And Vanessa. Something in my peripheral vision made me pause mid-sentence. Vanessa had moved to the champagne table with casual grace, positioning herself with her back to most guests, creating a shield between the crystal flutes and other partygoers. "Brian, are you still there?" "Yes, I'm here," I managed, my attention now completely focused below. Her left hand picked up the champagne bottle, perfect cover, but her right hand slipped into her designer purse with practiced smoothness. My pharmaceutical background had taught me to recognize controlled substance handling, and every alarm bell began ringing. She retrieved something small, a packet. Tiny, discreet, easily concealed in a palm. "The transfer timeline is flexible," Dr. Warren was saying, but her words faded as I watched my daughter-in-law position herself directly over my monogrammed crystal flute. The packet tore silently. Fine white powder cascaded into golden champagne, dissolving instantly in the bubbles. Vanessa stirred it gently with a cocktail stirrer, then pocketed both empty packet and stirrer in one fluid motion. My breath stopped completely. The entire operation took less than 15 seconds. Vanessa stepped away with the same casual grace, immediately joining a conversation group near the fountain. Her smile was radiant, manner perfectly natural. No one else had noticed anything, but I had just watched my daughter-in-law attempt to murder me. "Dr. Warren, something urgent has come up. Can we finalize details Monday morning?" "Of course." "Is everything all right?" "You sound shaken." Shaken didn't begin to cover it. I was staring at a woman who'd just poisoned my champagne with the same casual efficiency she'd once used closing pharmaceutical sales. Her medication training, dosage knowledge, understanding of how substances affected the human body, she'd weaponized it all. "Everything's fine. Just party logistics. Thank you for the wonderful board news. After ending the call, I stood frozen, watching Vanessa laugh at Mrs. Patterson's comment. She looked so normal, perfectly innocent. But I knew what I'd seen: careful positioning, practice movements, immediate evidence disposal. This wasn't impulse. This was premeditated murder. The woman who'd screamed about family money had just tried to ensure she'd inherit it all, and she had no idea I'd been watching. I gripped the balcony railing, my knuckles white as the full weight of betrayal crashed over me. My daughter-in-law, who'd called me dad for 3 years, kissed my cheek at Christmas, had just tried to murder me with professional efficiency. The pharmaceutical powder wasn't random. Vanessa's sales background gave her access to controlled substances, knowledge of lethal dosages, understanding of which compounds would mimic natural causes in a 72-year-old man. She'd calculated exactly how much was needed, how quickly it would act, how it would appear when I suddenly collapsed. Heart attack, they'd assume. Stroke, perhaps. The party excitement, champagne, emotional weight of the donation announcement, and he could explain why a wealthy retiree might suffer sudden medical emergency. The autopsy might not even detect the right compounds. But she'd made one critical error. She hadn't realized I was watching. This wasn't crime of passion triggered by last week's confrontation. The packet was prepared in advance, brought with deliberate intent. She'd studied my habits, identified the perfect opportunity, positioned herself with practiced precision. My mind raced through options. Call police? No evidence the packet was gone, powder dissolved. Confront her publicly? She'd deny everything, claim I was having mental episodes triggered by business stress. She was skilled at manipulation, at presenting herself as the concerned daughter-in-law worried about paranoid delusions. I could drink the champagne and hope the dosage wasn't lethal, that medical intervention might provide evidence. But that was gambling my life at 72. There was a fourth option, one that appealed to both justice and poetic irony. If Vanessa wanted to play with poison, she could experience her own weapon's consequences. I would switch our glasses. The plan crystallized with startling clarity. Return to the party, create plausible reason to get her away from the champagne table, execute the switch while she was distracted. Let her drink her own medicine literally. When she collapsed instead of me, the truth would be undeniable. It was dangerous, requiring precise timing and steady nerves. But 40 years in competitive business had taught me strategic thinking under pressure, turning opponents' strength into weakness. Vanessa thought she was executing perfect murder. Instead, she was about to become victim of her own deadly scheme. Time to give my daughter-in-law a taste of her own medicine. I descended the stairs with practiced composure, my heart hammering while my face maintained the warm smile of a gracious host. 40 years of high-stakes business negotiations had taught me to project calm confidence, even when everything was falling apart inside. The party continued its elegant rhythm, my guests blissfully unaware they were witnessing the prelude to attempted murder. Vanessa stood near the fountain, animated in conversation with Dr. Mitchell about his recent Mediterranean cruise. Her performance was flawless, the perfect daughter-in-law, charming and engaged, with no hint of the deadly calculation I'd witnessed minutes earlier. She glanced up as I rejoined the group, her smile brightening with apparent warmth. "How was your call, Brian? Foundation business going smoothly?" "Very smoothly, thank you. Dr. Warren sends her regards." I kept my voice steady, conversational. "Actually, Vanessa, I hate to interrupt your conversation, but could you help me with something?" Her eyes flickered with interest. Perhaps anticipating I was about to ask her to assist with party logistics that would position her perfectly to ensure I drank the poisoned champagne. "Of course, Brian. What do you need?" My old college friend Robert Martinez was supposed to be here tonight, but he got stuck with an emergency board meeting in Boston. He just called feeling terrible about missing my birthday. I gestured toward the front of the property. "He's having a gorgeous flower arrangement delivered as an apology, should be at the front gate any moment." Vanessa's gaze instinctively moved toward the champagne table where my glass waited, then back to my face. I could see the calculation. How long would this errand take? Would it interfere with her timeline? "He said the delivery driver has specific instructions about placement," I continued. "Something about honoring my late wife's memory with the arrangement. You know how sentimental Robert can be." The mention of my deceased wife was a masterstroke. Vanessa couldn't refuse without seeming heartless, especially in front of Dr. Mitchell, who'd known and loved my wife for decades. "Of course I'll help," she said, her smile never wavering. How thoughtful of Robert. "What kind of flowers?" "Something spectacular, knowing Robert. The driver should be there within minutes. Just wait by the gate. If no one shows in 10 minutes, come back and we'll call the florist." "I'd be happy to help." She squeezed my arm affectionately, playing her role to perfection. "It's such a beautiful gesture." As Vanessa walked toward the front gate, her heels clicking against stone pathway, I felt grim satisfaction. She was probably calculating how quickly she could handle this interruption and return to monitor my champagne consumption. She had no idea she was walking away from her own crime scene, giving me precious minutes to turn her weapon against her. Dr. Mitchell watched her go with approval. What a thoughtful young woman. You're lucky to have such caring family, Brian. Yes, I replied, watching Vanessa disappear around the corner. I'm learning exactly how much my family cares about me. The moment she was out of sight, I moved toward the champagne table with swift purpose. My glass sat exactly where I'd left it, the poisoned champagne still bubbling cheerfully. But I also spotted Vanessa's glass distinctive crystal with delicate etching sitting on a nearby cocktail table where she'd placed it during her conversation. Time to execute the most important transaction of my life. With Vanessa safely out of sight, I had perhaps 7 minutes to execute my plan. 7 minutes to save my life and expose a would-be murderer. I moved with deliberate calm toward the champagne table, nodding at Mrs. Patterson as she complimented the garden lighting. My poisoned glass sat innocently among the others, deadly contents, invisible beneath cheerful golden bubbles. Vanessa's glass waited on the nearby cocktail table, distinctive crystal with delicate floral etching. I'd given her last Christmas. She'd set it down during her conversation with Dr. Mitchell, never imagining it would become the vessel for her own destruction. Brian, this party is magnificent, Father O'Connor approached warmly. The Foundation announcement has everyone inspired. Your generosity will change countless lives. Thank you, Father. That means everything. I picked up my glass carefully, its deadly weight making my hand unsteady. Excuse me, I need to refresh some drinks. As Father O'Connor moved toward the jazz quartet, I carried my poisoned champagne toward Vanessa's glass. The party's natural rhythm provided perfect cover guests chatting, laughing, moving between groups. No one paid attention to a host tending refreshments. I positioned myself between the cocktail table and main group, my body shielding what I was about to do. My heart hammered as I tilted my glass over Vanessa's, watching poisoned champagne flow from one crystal vessel to another. The transfer took seconds but felt eternal. Golden liquid cascaded silently, carrying Vanessa's own deadly intentions. Perfect irony, she would drink the very poison she'd prepared for me, served in a glass I'd given her as familial love. Once her glass was half full with tainted champagne, I quickly refilled my own with fresh Dom Perignon from the bottle. Clean champagne bubbled innocently, free of pharmaceutical powder and murderous intent. Dad, there you are. Marcus appeared with genuine affection. I was telling the Pattersons about your foundation work. They're so impressed. It's important to give back, son. I set my now clean glass down naturally. Where did Vanessa go? I wanted her included in the toast preparation. She mentioned helping with flower delivery? From Robert? Right, she should be back any moment. As if summoned, I heard familiar heel clicks on stone. Vanessa appeared around the corner, expression slightly frustrated but quickly masked with practiced smile. No sign of any delivery driver, she announced. I waited at the gate, but nobody came. Perhaps a mix-up with the address? How strange, I replied with perfect innocence. Robert was so specific about timing. Well, no matter, we can sort it later. The important thing is, you're back just in time. Just in time for what? The birthday toast, of course. Everyone's waiting to properly celebrate. I gestured toward the gathering crowd. Your champagne is right there on the cocktail table, dear. You'll want to freshen up. It's been sitting a while. Vanessa's eyes lit with satisfaction as she moved toward her glass. In her mind, this was perfect timing. She'd returned to find me about to drink poisoned champagne, surrounded by witnesses who would see only tragic medical emergency during joyful celebration. She had no idea she was walking toward her own deadly trap. Wonderful, she said, lifting her glass with elegant fingers. I wouldn't miss toasting your generosity for anything. The champagne caught string lights like liquid gold, beautiful and sparkling, and absolutely lethal. Ladies and gentlemen, I called out, my voice carrying across the garden with the authority of a man who'd commanded boardrooms for 4 decades. If I could have your attention for a moment. The conversations gradually quieted as my guests turned toward me, their faces warm with anticipation. 43 people had gathered to celebrate not just my birthday, but what they believed was an act of unprecedented generosity. They had no idea they were about to witness something far more dramatic. Vanessa positioned herself prominently in the front of the group, her champagne glass held elegantly in her manicured fingers. Her smile was radiant, the picture of a devoted daughter-in-law supporting her father-in-law's charitable endeavors. She probably imagined this would be the perfect moment surrounded by witnesses. I would drink the poisoned champagne and collapse, appearing to succumb to the overwhelming emotion of the evening. This has been an extraordinary night, I began, raising my clean glass toward the assembled crowd. Sharing this milestone with people who've supported me through decades of friendship means more than I can express. Dr. Mitchell nodded approvingly from near the fountain. Father O'Connor clasped his hands together with genuine emotion. The Pattersons beamed with neighborly pride. These were people who understood the true meaning of community, of giving back, of using success to lift others up. As you know, I've decided to donate the majority of Thompson Pharmaceuticals' sale proceeds to the Children's Medical Research Foundation, I continued. 80% will fund research that could save countless young lives. Applause rippled through the crowd, genuine and heartfelt. Vanessa joined in enthusiastically, her performance flawless even as she held her own death in crystal form. But before we toast this new chapter, I said, my voice taking on a more serious tone, I want to talk about family, about loyalty, about what happens when people we trust reveal their true nature. Something in my tone made Vanessa's smile falter slightly. Her eyes sharpened, perhaps sensing that this speech wasn't following the script she'd expected. Family should celebrate each other's successes, support each other's dreams, protect each other from harm. My gaze moved deliberately to Vanessa. They shouldn't try to poison each other. A confused murmur ran through the crowd. Several guests glanced around uncertainly, wondering if they'd misheard. Vanessa's face went pale, but she maintained her composure. Brian, what are you talking about? Are you feeling all right? I'm feeling perfectly fine, Vanessa. Better than I have in years, actually. I raised my glass higher, because I finally understand who my real family island. And it's not always the people who share your blood or your name. She lifted her champagne toward her lips, perhaps thinking that if she could get me to drink as well, her original plan might still succeed. The golden liquid touched her mouth. Vanessa, I said clearly, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent garden. I hope you enjoy that drink as much as you thought I would. She froze, the glass still at her lips, a small amount of champagne already in her mouth. Her eyes widened with sudden, terrible understanding. You see, I continued conversationally, I watched you add that powder to my champagne while I was on the phone with Dr. Warren. Watched you stir it in, pocket the evidence, and walk away thinking you'd committed the perfect murder. Vanessa's face contorted with panic and rage. She jerked the glass away from her mouth, but it was too late. She'd already swallowed enough of her own poison to seal her fate. The only problem with your plan, I said as she stared at me in horror, was that you didn't realize I was watching from the bedroom balcony. So I took the liberty of transferring your little gift into your own glass. The crystal flute slipped from Vanessa's trembling fingers, shattering against the stone terrace in an explosion of glass and poisoned champagne. The sound seemed to echo forever in the stunned silence. What you just drank, my dear daughter-in-law, was your own murder weapon. The shattered crystal lay scattered across the stone terrace like fallen stars, each shard catching the string lights in accusatory glints. The silence that followed my revelation was deafening. 43 people frozen in shock, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Vanessa clutched her throat, her face cycling between pale terror and flushed panic. You're insane, she gasped, but her voice lacked conviction. This is some kind of breakdown. Marcus, your father needs help. But Marcus was staring at his wife with dawning horror, pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. Vanessa, what is he talking about? What powder? Dr. Mitchell stepped forward, his medical training overriding social shock. Brian, if what you're saying is true, we need to call emergency services immediately. What substance are we dealing with? I don't know the specific compound, I replied, my voice steady despite the chaos erupting around me. But I know it came from a small packet that Vanessa retrieved from her purse, something designed to mimic natural causes in a 72-year-old man. Vanessa's legs buckled, and she grabbed onto a nearby chair for support. Whether from the poison's effects or sheer panic, her composure was completely shattered. It's not true, she whispered, but even she seemed to realize how unconvincing she sounded. Father O'Connor moved to her side, his pastoral instincts overcoming his shock. My child, if you're in distress, we need to get you medical attention. I'm not your child, Vanessa snapped, then immediately looked stricken by her own outburst. The mask was slipping completely now, revealing the calculating predator beneath the charming facade. Sarah Patterson pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I'm calling 911. No! Vanessa lunged toward her, desperation making her movements erratic. Don't call anyone. There's nothing wrong with me. He's having some kind of episode. But her panic was telling its own story. An innocent person would welcome medical examination, would insist on proving their innocence. Vanessa's terror of outside intervention confirmed everything my guests needed to know. Marcus approached his wife slowly, as if seeing her for the first time. The pharmaceutical knowledge, he said quietly. Your old job. You always said you understood medications better than most doctors. Marcus, don't listen to him. Your father is sick. This whole charity thing, the pressure it's affected his mind. Then why are you so afraid of the paramedics? Marcus's voice cracked with pain. If Dad is having a breakdown, medical attention would help him. Unless... He stopped, the full implications hitting him like a physical blow. Rebecca Collins, my attorney, stepped forward with professional authority. Everyone needs to stay calm and preserve the scene. If a crime has been committed, we can't contaminate evidence. Vanessa whirled on her with fury. Crime? What crime? A crazy old man makes wild accusations and suddenly I'm a criminal? The crazy old man, I said calmly, built a pharmaceutical empire by understanding exactly how medications work. The crazy old man also has 43 witnesses who just watched you panic when confronted with your own actions. Dr. Mitchell was studying Vanessa's symptoms with clinical interest. Elevated heart rate, perspiration, trembling consistent with either extreme anxiety or early stages of poisoning. How much did you swallow? I didn't swallow anything. But even as she said it, Vanessa's hand moved instinctively to her stomach, and I saw the fear in her eyes deepen. She was beginning to feel the effects. Marcus backed away from his wife, his face a mask of betrayal and disgust. Oh God, Vanessa, what have you done? What have you actually done? The woman who'd played the perfect daughter-in-law for 3 years finally dropped all pretense. What I had to do, she screamed. Do you have any idea what it's like watching millions of dollars get thrown away on strangers? That money was supposed to be ours. The confession hung in the air like smoke from a gun. Every guest heard it clearly, witnessed her admission of motive, her justification for attempted murder. There it is, I said quietly. The truth at last. The paramedics arrived within minutes, their flashing lights casting red and blue shadows across my elegant garden party. What had begun as a celebration of generosity had transformed into a crime scene, complete with witness statements and evidence collection. Vanessa was loaded onto a stretcher, conscious but weak, the effects of her own poison creating a poetic justice that Shakespeare himself couldn't have written better. As they wheeled her away, she turned her head toward Marcus with desperate eyes. I did it for us, she whispered. For our future. Marcus stood frozen, watching the woman he'd loved become a stranger before his eyes. There is no us anymore, Vanessa. There never was there? Just you and your greed. Dr. Mitchell had provided the paramedics with his assessment of her likely symptoms, while Rebecca Collins coordinated with the arriving police officers. My guests had transformed from partygoers into witnesses, each providing their account of the evening's shocking events. I can't believe I never saw it, Marcus said, approaching me with tears in his eyes. 3 years of marriage, and I never realized what she was capable of. The way she pushed me to ask for money, the way she calculated every social interaction. He shook his head in disbelief. I'm so sorry, Dad, I'm so incredibly sorry. I placed my hand on my son's shoulder, feeling the weight of his genuine remorse. You're not responsible for her choices, Marcus. But you are responsible for your own moving forward. I know, and I meant what I said earlier about finding real work. I want to earn my place in this world, not inherit it through violence. He looked around at the crime scene tape and police officers. Will you ever be able to forgive me for bringing her into our family? Son, you fell in love with the person she pretended to be. That's not a crime, it's human nature. The real question is what you do with this knowledge now. As the police finished their preliminary investigation, my friends began approaching with expressions of concern and admiration. Father O'Connor was the first to speak. Brian, your composure throughout this ordeal has been remarkable. To think clearly enough under such circumstances to protect yourself, that takes extraordinary presence of mind. Dr. Mitchell nodded in agreement. 40 years of business negotiations prepared you well for high-stakes situations. Most people would have panicked or confronted her immediately. Most people, I replied, haven't spent decades learning to think 3 moves ahead of their opponents. Sarah Patterson squeezed my arm gently. What you've been through tonight, the betrayal, the danger it would break most people. But you turned it into justice. As the evening wound down, and the last police officer departed, I found myself standing in my garden with the people who truly mattered. Not the largest group, but the most genuine. Marcus had chosen to stay, helping clean up the remnants of what should have been a perfect celebration. The foundation donation will proceed as planned, I announced to the remaining friends. Tonight proved that generosity isn't just about money, it's about recognizing who deserves your trust and who has earned their place in your life. Rebecca Collins gathered her purse, preparing to leave. I'll handle all the legal aspects of this situation, Brian. Attempted murder charges, divorce proceedings if Marcus chooses, updating your will to reflect tonight's revelations. Thank you, Rebecca. though I think my will is exactly as it should be. Tonight didn't change my commitment to helping children, it reinforced it. As the last guests departed, Marcus and I sat together on the terrace where his wife had tried to commit murder just hours earlier. The string lights still twinkled overhead, but the atmosphere had changed completely. What happens now, Dad? Now we rebuild. You find meaningful work, contribute something positive to the world. I proceed with the foundation donation and enjoy retirement with people who actually care about me. I looked at my son, seeing genuine potential for the first time in years, and we both learned the difference between family you're born with and family you choose. Marcus nodded slowly. I want to be worthy of being chosen. Then you already are, son. The rest is just proving it to yourself. The evening had ended not with the tragedy Vanessa had planned, but with the kind of clarity that only comes from surviving betrayal and choosing justice over revenge. Sometimes the best way to give someone a taste of their own medicine is simply to let them drink it themselves. Sometimes the greatest betrayal stories teach us the most profound lessons about human nature and divine justice. What I experienced that night wasn't just about money or greed, it was about discovering who truly deserves your trust and love. God has a way of revealing people's true character when they think nobody is watching. As I stood on that balcony, witnessing Vanessa's calculated evil, I realized the Lord was giving me the wisdom to protect not just my life, but my legacy of generosity. These betrayal stories remind us that divine providence often works through our own careful observation and thoughtful action. Like many grandpa stories passed down through generations, this experience taught me that real family isn't determined by blood or marriage certificates. It's chosen through loyalty, respect, and genuine care. Marcus proved that night that redemption is possible when someone truly wants to change. The foundation donation proceeded exactly as planned, helping countless children receive life-saving medical research. God blessed me with the resources to make a difference, and no amount of greed could steal that purpose. Even in our darkest moments, the Lord provides us with the strength and clarity to choose justice over revenge. These grandpa stories aren't just entertainment, they're lessons about standing firm in your values when others try to destroy them. Whether facing betrayal in business, family, or friendships, remember that truth always finds a way to surface. The most important grandpa stories teach us that wisdom comes from experience, courage comes from conviction, and justice comes from God's perfect timing. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced similar family betrayal? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring life stories, and hit the notification bell so you never miss these powerful lessons about faith, family, and justice.